Welcome back to another kind of funny reaction, this time to Star Wars The Bad Batch, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. That's not what it's called. I actually don't know what this episode's called. I'll Google that. I'll Google that in a second. But I'm Tim Gettys, and joining me, of course, is the boss baby himself, Barrett Courtney.
A good soldier follows orders, Tim.
It's true. That is true. And Mr. Roger for Courtney.
What is up, everybody? It's Cut and Run. That's the name of the title.
That's right. Cut and run.
Yeah.
Cut and run. So once again, proving Barrett Courtney knows his fucking shit.
He does.
Well, I didn't call this one. I didn't call this
Cut?
one. No, I called Zeb coming into this episode. I thought it was going to be Zeb. Shout out to the YouTube comments, though. There was a couple of YouTube people who were like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be cut from, I think it's like season 4 or maybe season 3 of Clone Wars. Like, this was a much deeper cut than like even Zeb, because Zeb is like a main character on Rebels, whereas like cut is like one episode and like and it's a really cool, interesting episode of a clone that deserts the clone army and stuff like that. And so when I saw those YouTube comments on Tuesday or whatever, I was like, oh yeah, that actually makes way more sense than what I was thinking. And so I really liked where they went with this episode.
That's really funny though, because like when they introduced the character, I didn't know, because like I haven't seen Clone Wars like in that detail. So I was just like, oh, that's a character name. I don't know. That must be the thing Barrett was talking about. But that's awesome that it's in an even deeper cut. That's really cool. But Barrett, starting with you, what'd you think of this episode?
I tweeted out last night when I finished the episode, and it was nice to watch an episode at midnight and not have it be an hour and 10 minutes and like actually go to bed at like a normal time or slightly normal for me. I think in any other show this would have felt like filler. Like it does have like the vibes of season 1 of The Mandalorian, where they go on like that backwater planet and he's just trying to find like a chill life for Yodalini. They run into Cara Dune or whatever, and then they have to like fight the AT-AT. And it definitely had similar vibes, but I think there are a lot of like little things that still make this episode kind of feel important and significant. Like the little moment where Cut is like, yeah, Rex stopped by a couple of days ago, and like kind of aligning like where everything is happening at the same time in the timeline. Like the last time we saw Rex was the end of season 7 of Clone Wars, and just like that reminder of like what he just went through with Ahsoka, and them kind of being, I forget the planet name exactly what it was called, but like the Empire kind of like quickly like regulating things and like impounding ships and the whole chain code thing, which I don't know if that was, I'm sure chain codes were introduced somewhere in some
Mandalorian.
Was it Mandalorian was the first time?
That was Mandalorian.
Okay.
All right, I mean, at least as far as I know, because I mean, I've read a lot of the modern comics, like things that aren't like prequel era stuff, like anything that had to do with like the sequels. I've read those comics and even a lot of the original trilogy stuff. And the first time I ever saw chain codes was Mandalorian, and they made a pretty big deal out of it.
And like I thought that was kind of cool. Of like, all right, this is like an Empire specific thing that like they were regulating to literally count people into their system and stuff like that. Like I thought that was really smart, and it like brought back and it's cool that I just came off of the Star Wars rewatch of like going back to the Ahsoka book, where it's like a year after Episode 3, and like what she's dealing with, and the planet that she's hiding out on is like really like on the edge of the galaxy, like the Empire finally coming there and regulating that planet because they found out like there's a resource on that planet that they want to like control and all this stuff. And it was cool to have it feel all connected and tied to everything else that we've seen in the like current canon so far. And yeah, I thought it was really cool. I think in any other like type of show or with any other showrunner, I think it probably would have felt a little weaker to me, but I think it did a good job at making small things feel important. And we can talk more about the character stuff in a few moments, but I dug it.
Roger?
I thought it was a pretty decent episode. I don't think it was I felt like it was more filler to me in my mind, but I think that's also what makes the Filoni verse like great, is that like those simple moments, like those episodes where you're able to understand where all these characters are coming from. And I don't feel like every episode needs to have like these big moments like in episode 1. But I also think that that's also why I think these episodes, the show specifically, shouldn't be week to week. I think it should be like kind of just a binge in general, because I think that's where a lot of like you really grow with these characters as you're just marathoning through these episodes. So I think week to week isn't really the best place for the show, but I thought it was really great. I do love the transition period, like seeing that the fascism coming into this planet, like the subtle changes slowly but surely, like, and also then like trying to like realize and like the whole idea of like, okay, like the war is over though, right? Like the war is over, right? Like people trying to like pretend and like and kind of like convince themselves that they're done.
But yeah, it feels like a hostile takeover and stuff
100%.
Like that. Yeah,
100%. So I thought that was really good. I think the Omega stuff was really good. I think that she's already in a much better place than Ahsoka was in the first season of Clone Wars. And I think she's
Listen,
like
man, Filoni had a vision. It was going to take time. It was all about making her annoying at first and then having her grow. It's called a character arc, Roger.
For sure. No, I totally get it. But
no,
like,
I get what you say. I agree with you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, and I think she is a much better place now. Where I think like it's like learning from what the fans wanted and what their reaction to it. It's almost like in Breaking Bad with Skyler, and now with Better Call Saul. Kim Wexler. They learned a lot of.
Yeah, it's been so long since Better Call Saul. Oh my god.
Yeah, it feels like they're learning from like the fan reactions, and Omega's a great character in my opinion. I thought the episode was pretty decent overall. I don't think it was as noteworthy though.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. And I think that I wouldn't use the word filler, because I do think that character development episodes often get classified as filler when that's just not their intent. Their intent is to like get a little deeper with the characters.
And get those slower moments to, build things up.
Having said that, being newer to this whole Filoniverse thing, I find it a little disappointing that it seems like a lot of the character tropes are just kind of well-worn territory of like, oh, we're getting another story that is just like Logan.
I wanted to bring this up as well, of like, how weird is it that like they had like pretty much an idea of what they wanted the Mandalorian to be, and then have another story so close to the Mandalorian where it's like this weathered man who's like a badass and like kind of like a war guy and knows how to fight, who's like kind of emotionally stunted and stuff like that, and then he has to like take care of this like adorable child that's gonna like make him wear him down a little bit and open himself up and learn who he wants to be in the galaxy and stuff. I was like, we just got this with Mandalorian, and like I it was a thought I had in the back of my mind on the first episode. I was like, is this where they're going with it? And then this episode like really cemented of like, yeah, this is where they're going with it. And I think it's so interesting, just like 6 months after Mandalorian season 2, where we seem to like have like not like the end of Mando and maybe Grogu's story, but definitely like a moment in their story where it's like that's what they're building towards. And I think it's just so weird that they're deciding to do this kind of like character relationship trope again so soon. And I wonder if they have any plans to differentiate it at all and make it feel different. So
yeah, I think they do. And I think that's the thing is like, going further with this, I wanted to save this for later in the episode to talk about, because I want to focus more on this episode. But just to let you guys know for context here, the last episode that we watched last week got me so hyped about this shit that I was like, you know what? I'm going to commit to Rebels. I'm going to do it. Like everyone's talking about Rebels. I was like, I've tried Clone Wars from the beginning too many times where I'm just like, the truncated orders.
You watch you watch season 7, you got to like the emotional, impactful stuff. So yeah,
I have like a lot of background with it, but I'm like, you know what? I want to commit to Rebels because I love that era so much. And I'm just like, and everyone talks so highly about it. So I'm like, cool. So I'm almost done with season 1. Like I'm like, like I'm like fucking in. I am really, really having a good time with it.
I apologize ahead of time of, will never go to bat for the art style of Rebels. And there's
I get it.
There's going to be some characters you see, and you're going to be like, "What the fuck? Why?"
Yeah.
And so, but the story that's there is so good. So I'm excited.
I'm having a real good time with it. I love all the things they're getting into. But watching that and like I also just recently watched the first couple episodes of Clone Wars because I was trying to start it the right way and just do it all. And it's like, it's funny where I'm like, wow, Filoni really, really, really likes this idea of a younger character with somebody older.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like finding family where you don't have any. And it's just like, it just keeps happening over and over and over where it's like Kanan and Ezra. I'm like, okay, how different is that in the early episodes, granted, than this? And like, that's the thing where it's like, clearly they're all going in different directions. And that is something that I appreciate about Bad Batch. And even though it seems like well-worn territory, I like that they're dealing with, like in episode 2, we're already past the, okay, well, I'm going to leave you with someone that can actually take care of you. And she's like, you ain't. It's like, cool, let's move past that stuff so we can get to, we have 16 episodes. So 14 left for them to take Omega in a different direction than, you know, what we've seen before, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, and talking about that stuff where it's like they all kind of start the same. I think Filoni just knows of like what the best way to kind of start a Star Wars story is. It's like kind of harkening back to like how almost the structure of like the characters coming together in A New Hope and stuff like that. And I think he just knows how to like at least grab you. Because even though like I like while watching this episode, I was like in the back of my mind of like, this is so similar, like so close to The Mandalorian, and we just got The Mandalorian and stuff. But like I was still emotional when like Omega was like being carted off with the family and stuff. I knew she was coming back. It wasn't going to be the end, but like seeing her reaction to it, and then like seeing her come back and all this stuff, and at the end where Hunter is like, if this is like where you want to be, then this is where you'll stay. It's like, oh fuck, like they're already selling me on these relationships, even though it is like kind of similar territory, and I'm excited to see what where they go with it. And there's some interesting theories in our comments for the first episode that maybe we don't have to dive into today, but someone pointed out of like Omega's hair seems similar to a certain character and stuff like that, so she might not be a 1-to-1 clone of Django, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the bringing in Cut so early, and that is a deep cut into the Clone Wars, which is also one of my favorite episodes of the Clone Wars.
It's
because
so good.
It's an amazing episode, and I think that Cut's story always resonated with me because that's always what I wanted Rex to have. I always wanted Rex, when we flash forward, to have a family and everything,
and like just to be out of the shit. And it's
and we never get that, and I think that showing Cut in this also, by the way, having Cut have so many connections, which is interesting that he like that the Bad Batch knows about him, and the Wreckers is like family,
it kind of makes sense because like in a way Cut is also like a defected clone in a way where he's able to leave and not have to follow orders and stuff like that. So I do think it kind of makes sense, and like I think it makes sense from a storytelling standpoint as well, of like kind of being a foil of the Bad Batch and like looking at the life that they could have but they realistically won't, with a clone that is kind of similar to them.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I think that that might be the direction they're going with, right? Like with The Mandalorian, like it's clear like the separation of Grogu and Jin Jargon, right? Mando. Like that is, they're clearly not going to have that like that world where they're able to like actually grow and like have a family and like do that thing. So maybe that's a possibility that they're going now. We've never had like actually like someone that actually settles down and like has a family. So it's like maybe that's the direction they're going towards. But it's interesting because there is, you're right, like they don't start off on very similar directions, but there is a lot of places they can go with this.
So what's interesting to me about this episode in particular is, you know, what we're talking about here about this trope seems to come up a lot. And I think at the end of the day, like there's no joke that I'm trying to say here. It's like, but Star Wars is about family. Like it always has been. Like it's like you look at, you know, the Skywalker saga, like all that stuff.
Fast and Furious, you know.
But I'm not doing that. But it's like real talk though. In Star Wars, it's like it is about family, and it is about like what that means to have
and
like your real family members, found family, all of that stuff. So it's like it's cool to see that. Having said that, this episode, and granted, you guys are way more experienced with me when it comes to Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff, but like a lot of this didn't feel Star Wars to me. It felt like something different, and I thought that was really cool and kind of interesting. And like even musically, they made a lot of choices. There was one thing that was stuck in my head where I'm like, I know this song. What the fuck is it? And you guys know how I am about music, where I'm always trying to like tie back the themes, and it was driving me fucking nuts. And then it hit me last night. It's a song from Halo 3. but like they straight up, it sounds exactly the same to Beyond a Pale Horse, this Halo 3 song. I'll send it to you guys later.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of like Omega's theme that like it seems to be playing, and like it's just a coincidence, but it was driving me fucking nuts. And I was like, is this Ahsoka's theme? Is this whatever? And I was like YouTubing a bunch of shit, and I eventually was just like, no, it's
Master Chief is coming.
Yeah, I do
Master
think
Chief's coming.
it feels definitely different from a lot of other like not live action, but like on-screen Star Wars stuff. Like this, like I brought up the Ahsoka book. Like that's the closest this episode felt like with the whole transitioning and the whole vibe and stuff like that. I feel like that's the closest thing we've got. So I think the vibe of this episode is the first time we've kind of gotten this different feeling of Star Wars in an on-screen kind of medium, which is interesting. I just want to shout out that they like went into full detail with Cut's family as well, where they got all the same VAs as well. Shout out to Kath Soucie, who voices Phil and Lil, who I don't think has done anything in years.
Awesome.
And who voices like the younger child. And it's like
that's really
I
funny.
remember because like she has that like distinct voice when she voices children. And because I remember in that original episode of Cut, I was like, that's Phil and Lil. And then the fact that they brought her back, it is like, okay, like, all right, Filoni, you were really attentive to detail here. I appreciate it.
Also, D. Bradley Baker being even more characters with even more different
It's
vibes.
never gonna end.
It's just,
he voices
it's
so
wild.
many fucking people.
I love it.
It's so funny because like I was watching it with my brother today, and he's also a big Clone Wars fan, and I was telling him, I was like, that's the same guy. He's like, no fucking way. like
Yeah,
it's just
awesome.
it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's great.
So I was saying like it felt very not Star Wars, but that's kind of anchored in things that are so inherently ridiculously Star Wars. There were some moments that like, sure, they're heavy-handed, but really worked for me. And that was Omega like looking at the dirt for the first time. And it just reminds me so much of Rey kind of feeling the rain for the first time, or seeing the green on the planet. I forget the name is, but where Maz's castle is.
Yeah.
And then it also reminds me of like Luke looking at the twin suns. It's like there's just this moment of sheer wonder and of discovery of like something new that's out there. And like that is so quintessentially Star Wars. And like, sure, it kind of is just like, then they're done that, but it still makes you feel something.
Yeah,
and it's like
especially because with
thing.
like Omega like coming from a lab essentially, and like this very
Totally.
like
From Kamino.
pristine like planet and
Pure
stuff like
white,
that.
very apple
Yeah,
looking,
and,
very
like,
just, it's just
like,
water and rain.
Being on this planet where it's like kind of like not gross, but it's like like kind of dirty. It's a backwater type of planet and stuff like that. Like that was a really cool moment. I absolutely loved that as well.
This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Summer is coming, and for so many of us, it's the season of discomfort. It's hot out, and if you could sit around in just your underwear, you would. MeUndies wants to make this summer the summer of comfort. And they want you to know that if you want to sit around in your underwear, that's absolutely allowed. I do it all the time. And when I don't want to sit in my underwear, I sit in my MeUndies lounge pants. I got some dinosaurs right now. I love my dinosaurs. And I also love all the other fun prints that MeUndies offers. If you like bold prints, they do those too. If you like classic, guess what? Your blacks, your whites, your grays, they're all there. They make undies, they make lounge pants, they make t-shirts, they make socks. I'm wearing all of those right now, and I love it because they have the softest micro-modal fabric imaginable. MeUndies makes it easy to match. You can match your bottom half to your better half, or halves. Yes, you can match your friends too. MeUndies helps you find a matching pair in a style or color or print of undies that's right for you and your boo, because who doesn't love a secret twinning moment? Me and G have both been wearing matching MeUndies, and every once in a while, when I realize we're both wearing the same ones, just makes my day that much better and that much softer. MeUndies has a great offer for you guys. For any first-time purchasers, you can get 50% off and free shipping. MeUndies also has their problem-free philosophy. If you're not satisfied with any product for any reason, they'll refund or exchange it. No caveats, no questions. Get 15% off your first order and free shipping by going to MeUndies.com/morning. That's MeUndies.com/morning. I love MeUndies, and you should too. MeUndies.com/morning. Let's see. There's a couple things I wanted to point out.
Shout out to the cat from episode 2.
Exactly. That's what I want to say. Wait, hold on.
I forget what it's called, but yeah, it's Attack of the Clones when they're in the Coliseum and they're fighting all the animals. That's the cat that goes after.
Fuck yeah, that was episode 2.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, cool. I was just getting my episodes confused. Yes, exactly. Yeah. That was awesome. But that scene, this episode didn't feel as beautiful to me as episode 1 did. I was so impressed with episode 1 visually and of Bad Batch, and then episode 2, there was just moments of The lighting was still great. The cinematography,
Oh yeah,
and
like
all
that
was
shot
great.
of Omega in the ship, like after she deals with like that whole cat, and then Cut takes her to the ship, and she's like having this kind of emotional moment where she feels like she fucked up and failed, and like there's this like that lighting shot. I was like, damn, that is a pretty ass shot. This is a pretty ass show.
So it's pretty, but there's just moments of animation that I was like, oh man, this is a kid show. And I hate when, and I know it's a kid show, but that doesn't mean it needs to look like a kid show or act like a kid show. And these shows work better when they don't. And it's just when the cat thing was coming at her and the way she kind of like went like cowered
and even
about
like
it
the
as,
way the cat like ran away and stuff too. That was like very
It's just like weird calls, and like Invincible had some of these moments too where I was just like, oh my god, it just stands out because the rest of it looks so good.
3D animation in Invincible and like random like backgrounds. It's like, what was the
so
point?
funny. Like, what? But anyway, like that's such a minor criticism for stuff, but I wanted to point it out. Just so we're not just purely praising this thing, but I love all of the little tiny little like Star Wars things, like the cat being from episode 2. Obviously, I love that you call it cat because I would never call it that. I'd go more lizard, but I guess it is kind of kitty like. Anyways,
it purrs.
But the Scomp link, the fact that they brought Scomp into this, they're talking about it from Fallen Order.
Oh, I totally missed that. I don't think
there was like they were just putting the Scomp link in to like get information from the It was early in the episode.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh shit! Like I remember, that's a word I only knew because of Jedi Fallen Order, and I was like, that's a weird
I totally
thing.
missed that line.
But it's dumb little Star Wars stuff where it's like things coming back. But bigger stuff that's not dumb is what you guys were talking about like this the transition over to the Empire and how fast it happened. And I think that what's really cool about this show is that is the point of this show existing, is showing us and teaching us the transition, how it happened, all the criticisms we've had for so long of like when, like, how did this all go down?
When did they stop being clones? Like, why are like the stormtroopers so dumb when we get to A New Hope and stuff like that? Yeah.
They're explaining it, and I really appreciate all that stuff. And I think that it's really cool, like seeing the more like the political side of Star Wars in a way that like is a little more straightforward and makes sense as opposed to like what they, I guess, attempted in episode 1.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very, very episode 1 of the movies, not of the show. Yeah. And then the chain link database stuff, all of that, I think it is such wise stuff. And it's what we've been talking about the last episode and even in Mandalorian and all that stuff. Like, clearly Filoni is trying to fix the sequels already. And it's like, he is building it. What I love, though, is he's trying to connect the strings from prequel era all the way to sequel era so that the Palpatine stuff makes as much sense as it possibly can, you know? And it's like, that is cool that like we're getting like so early in the timeline, these hints that hopefully will strengthen shows like Mandalorian and strengthen the rest of the spin-offs that we're about to see.
Lucasfilm came out with another bad movie and Filoni just put out his cigarette. And he's like, ah, shit, here we go again. I gotta fix another bullshit fucking decision.
I really thought was interesting was when they were going in the market and you see like that hologram of like the Empire figurehead just talking about like how everything's safe now and there's, you know, everything's gonna be good, there's equal opportunity. And honestly, I was like, this is kind of convincing. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of a convincing argument. Like, and I was like, I get it.
He's a charming dude.
I exactly. Yeah, I think that's like interesting because I feel like the show. I mean, this whole series, of course, it's like the Empire. Like, how the fuck do you not want to fight them? How do you not realize they're bad? But it's like, okay, like I understand how this transition
like
of
this
power
is
happens.
like an era where like nobody's really sure like what happened. Like,
yeah,
all we know is like the Jedi are dead, and now it's an Empire. Does that really affect us? It's like I love it. I forget like how much we talked about it, but like it goes back to that conversation with Saw Gerrera and like do we really trust them, and are they telling us the full truth? If they're lying about this thing about you coming after us and who we really were, like what else are they lying to us about? Yep. And I love that like we're finally getting that like perspective that isn't a Jedi, because like, you know, we've gotten Ahsoka and Cal Kestis and stuff like post Order 66, but I love that it's just like kind of random people being like, we don't know what the fuck's going on, and like, yeah, we'll try to get chain codes to kind of like hide ourselves away and like try not to worry about the Empire. Hopefully it doesn't affect us, and I think that's a really cool perspective.
Yeah, totally. And the one question I have, and maybe I missed something last episode or just forgot it, or maybe this is something that they're not yet explaining, but why not use the clones for the army? Is Tarkin just like clonist?
Yes, there is. They mention it. It's like a kind of an offhand comment. There was a mission that Echo went on before Echo was experimented on. I think it was like the mission where Echo was like lost, essentially, and Tarkin was they were escorting Tarkin somewhere, and it was pretty obvious that he did not care for clones. I don't know if they ever go into why, but I think he's just kind of unconvinced of kind of like the selling points on them, and he did talk about like the Empire maybe not like wanting to keep paying for the clones, and since they're like expensive and shit like that.
I mean, well, I was thinking about that. I was like, that's a good idea, but then I was like, wait, I mean, they own everything. Like, money doesn't matter to them. Like, it doesn't matter at all. But then I think in my head, at least the way that I think they're going about it, is that like they fought, like the clones were created to fight robots, and they were like losing to robots. So it's like I think that they were also like they're like robots in terms of like the way that they conduct business and they conduct their strategy. So I think that with that's why he was interested with like Clone Force 99, right? Like the idea that they are they're smarter, they have different tactics. And I think that bringing in regular people that aren't clones, that don't have inhibitor chips in them, they can control them in different ways, but then they can also build them up to have interesting general tactics and fighting and things like that. So that's the way that I interpreted it, but they might go a different direction.
Gotcha. Yeah. I just don't buy it. My thing is, we have 14 episodes left, and it's clear that that's what this series is dealing with. So I'm excited, and I hope they come up with some good answers. But like, this is my test for Filoni, where it's like if your one job is being good at making sense of the things that don't make sense, one of the biggest questions is why was there the switch from clones? And I'm not going to be happy if the answer is just Tarkin doesn't like them. Because everything you just said, Roger, why not both? Why not just have a bigger army? And then my other question is, what happened to the clones then? And I know I'm asking questions that we're going to get answers to, or at least I hope we're going to get answers to, but that's exciting. Like, are we going to see like what happens to these clones? Like, do we know anything? I know Barrett just walked away for a second. He might have the answer to this, but like, do we know why we went from having thousands of clones to we don't see them anymore? They're few and far between.
I don't know if there's like that concrete answer. We just know that they've disbanded them and they stopped using them and they don't find them useful anymore. And I think that's like that's the question that a lot of Star Wars fans have. And I think it's also like no one knew, like George Lucas didn't know what the Clone Wars was when he mentioned it in episode 4. So I don't know. I think
I was just saying to Roger, I was just like, the one thing, the test for me with Filoni is like, if his job is to make sense of the things that don't make sense. It's like the biggest question is, why'd you switch from the clones and what happened to the clones? And I'm hoping the answer, because the answer of just, it was Tarkin. I'm like, that's like, Tarkin doesn't like him? Not enough for me.
I don't think that'll be the full answer, because I don't think it'll be purely from Tarkin. I think he's like the one like mainly pushing for it, but I imagine we'll get maybe something a little bit from Palpatine, pardon me. It'll be interesting. All we know, as far as I remember from the Ahsoka book, which was a year after Episode 3, is that like by that point they're gone. Like clones aren't serving.
So anymore. How? So what's your theory? What the fuck happens to the clones? Is it a big fight on Kamino somehow, and like that ends? Like literally kill them all, like, because it just doesn't make sense that there aren't thousands of clones around.
I want to go back to the Vader comic, because the Charles Soule Vader comic is like pretty much right after Episode 3, and I feel like they talk about it for like a couple of panels or something like that. So I don't know what it'll be. I imagine it'll be something with I could see it being as easy as Tarkin doesn't trust them, and then like using the Bad Batch as an example of like, hey, if these guys can like break off and like maybe they find Cut at one point of like, hey, he was a normal soldier, he wasn't even like one of these like differently engineered clones, and he can just break off. Like, we can't trust these guys, and we need to build up like an a new army that feel like loyalists and like bring them in and like all this stuff. So
yeah, and I think it's also important to talk about. I don't think we touched on it last episode. Was that the alien from Camino like helping Omega leave? So I think there's some form of like infighting with people in Camino, and that might lead into the Empire not trusting their cloning methods and just generally clones in general. So I think that might be part of the key.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Again, with like that scientist from Mandalorian who I think is wearing like Camino clothes and stuff like that. So
yeah, you're right.
Again, like that's why I mentioned the last episode of like whatever the Kaminoans are trying. Like I don't think it's gonna work out for them in any sort of way. So we'll have to see like. Yeah, it might be like because I mentioned for the first episode, like it seems like they're trying to play their card, like they're trying to play their hand in whatever's gonna work best for them, and they kind of like wait out some situations, and Omega is important for them for some reason, and yeah, we'll have to wait to see. Maybe Omega is like the key there or something like that. Well, I don't know.
Very interesting stuff. Well. It sold me on watching Rebels, so hey, the show's working for somebody, right? Anyways, we will return next week. You boys down? You want to do another one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I will say, the views and listens on the last episode, not that great, everybody. So share this with your friends, and if you like it, watch it. If you like it really bad, please listen to it as well. Do it all because, like, yeah, that's it has to happen.
You can sync up the YouTube video with the audio version.
Yeah, whatever you got to do. But we will at least be doing episode 3. It might not be weekly going forward. We might do if we start to see arcs.
Like check-ins every few episodes and stuff like that. Yeah.
But as long as it makes sense for us to have these conversations, we're gonna have the conversation. So we'll be here on YouTube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. Also, if you want to get the show ad-free, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny. But guess what? If you want to listen to it, that's right, we're a podcast. Just search your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny Reactions, and we'll be right there for you. Boys, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
I'll see you later. Until next time, may the force be with you.